I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to a Saturday edition of Conversations with Al McFarlane. We've been committed to and executing a daily delivery of this program at noon every day from the beginning of December through December 31st. Our objective is to focus on our community's responses to COVID-19. And there are a number of agencies and institutions and businesses and individuals that really are bringing good work, good intention, and I think good results in alerting, educating, informing, connecting our people around mutual interest, shared strategies, information we need that we can trust, analysis, awareness, and we committed to the Minnesota Health Department that we could help elevate the voice, the stories of individuals and institutions. So in that spirit, we've reached out to a number of important centers of information to have them share their story. Well, today we're talking with Lillian McDonald, who's a managing director at TPT, Twin Cities Public Television. I'm going to share a little bit about Lillian. We've met each other off and on without meeting over the years, and today is the first time we've actually had a chance to be eyeball to eyeball on screen, so this is a step in the right direction. But Lillian is a visionary leader for TPT Now, and that's a PBS TV channel for government and cultural communities that provides public health, safety, and emergency response communications. This work emerged first as an organization called Emergency Community Health and Outreach, acronym ECHO. And as ECHO's founder and going through 10 years of community building, ECHO, she managed ECHO's acquisition by Twin Cities Public PBS station to increase the multimedia reach to multicultural communities. And so now TPT Now is a national leader in multilingual warning and alerting in multiple languages. So Lillian's work, let's see, background-wise, is mission work. She's been driven to just pursue, talk about, focus on equity and engagement and inclusion. She's got a great detailed story, having worked in broadcast television as a journalist for Who Radio in Iowa, for Carrie Levin Television, for Fox 9 TV in Minnesota. And she's also served as a public information officer for FEMA, doing large-scale emergencies communications, including with Hurricane Katrina. And Lillian, thank you. Meet Brenda Lyle Gray. As I mentioned before we went on, Brenda and I were classmates in kindergarten. So that's been a minute that we've known each other, and we're having such a great time working together now doing these interviews. So first of all, welcome to you. Let me ask you to start and tell more about you and your passion that I described so briefly, but you've got a great story to tell.
You know, Al and Brenda, Insight News, thank you so very much. I'm honored to be a part of your program today, and as a way to bring visibility to the issues that we do believe in terms of public information and the right for everybody to have information so they can conduct themselves appropriately going forward, especially in health and safety crises. Yep, I think you said it all. Born and raised a broadcaster, that's for sure. Started in my teenage years in radio, hosted my own show for quite a while, and then got into television, came up into this market from the state of Iowa, came to Minnesota in 1991, and rightfully so, you mentioned, I worked for Fox, I worked for CARE, I've served in a variety of different roles, mostly as a reporter. So from the outside, looking into storytelling, if you will, as a journalist, recognizing, who the key players are and maybe some of the gaps, and raising visibility to a lot of different stories here in the state of Minnesota. And then on the inside, when I left the broadcast industry as a reporter, I decided I worked for a public health department. And I as a part of that work, there were huge gaps. And the gaps that I saw were, how do we get information out to cultural populations whose first language might not be English? Mm-hmm. They're learning English, but their first language might not be English, and they don't want to be learning English on the fly in a crisis. So I created a model, leveraging my media experience into just bringing people together and inviting communities of culture into the process of of health and safety information. Inviting them to talk about what are the gaps, the disparities, the challenges, what do they really feel like they need to know, the differences between Western medicine and alternative medicine, and the blend of those medicines for a healthier body, if you will, and mind and spirit. And public safety topics as well, whether it's, tornado warnings, just a variety. We did over 700 different programs as a part of the ECHO Minnesota nonprofit. So that public health work morphed into a nonprofit. It's been my pleasure to serve. The cultures have changed me as a person, kind of getting to know from the inside and the lenses of Latinx communities, African communities, Asian communities, other BIPOC communities. For me, it's just been a pleasure. And yeah, it's been a lot of hard work because the systems that we have aren't always built to include, if you will, underserved audiences and viewpoints. And so what I'm trying to do is raise the visibility of the issues and of the cultures, and to get good information out there that government is trying to do. Government is trying to reach populations, and they're looking for strategies on how best to reach these populations. And so I've just been there at the right place at the right time. And when we merged ECHO in with Twin Cities Public Television in 2015, our platform got even bigger. And it's a pleasure to serve now because we're leveraging the PBS assets, if you will, to provide a public service that didn't exist for many, many years. And it's my pleasure to be part of that.
So tell me what you're doing specifically around COVID-19 here in Minnesota.
I'd love to. Can I show you pictures? I'm a real.
Absolutely.
You mentioned I was visionary. I'm also a visual person. So let me share my screen.
Yeah, let's use the technology.
Yeah, let's use it. Pictures are always better. Let me know if you can see what I have to share for you today on screen.
And you certainly are welcome. Carmen sent a note asking, would you all be able to share these conversations on your network? Absolutely. We want you to
we do
content wherever you can.
Yeah, you betcha. So you should see on screen now just a coverage map, if you can see that. So, we have 6 different TV channels at Twin Cities Public Television, and I operate TPT Now, which is over the air, channel 2.5. Our motto, be healthy, be safe, be ready. So the whole idea is our content is limited to health and safety and emergency response content. What is the most important kind of information that makes a difference when you really need to know it? On a day-to-day basis, we have health and safety tips, we have weather forecasts, we have traffic, we have headlines. It's meant to be a channel that's available 24/7, 365, kind of in the background, so that you can get your information on demand and in 4 different languages. We reach more than 1 million households, which is about 2 million people here in the state of Minnesota. In an emergency, if we need to, we can leverage our Minnesota channel and go statewide with public information so that everybody can see it. For COVID in particular, our content is in 3 categories: planned content, proposed content, and priority content. Planned content is, we are a part of the Joint Information Center. So when COVID started, the governor's office had a need to provide information, logo campaigns, for instance, in different languages. And so we've worked with them to provide infographics for their websites and for social media in 8 different languages. Proposed content is when things come up. So for instance, we have the vaccines that have been coming up, right? And I've been proposing that, there's a lot of issues in cultural communities that need to be addressed. And I think they need to be addressed by members of those communities in partnership with government. So, things like trust, things like fear about the vaccine, things like what's in the vaccine, because it may have religious implications. So I like to bring together, I've been proposing, we bring together some cultural leaders and we produce some media vignettes or shorts or public service announcements and whatnot, and kind of address those issues and fill some gaps so that we can get people interested in the vaccine. Priority content is real time. It's live. So we've done now, we'll be doing our 14th real-time news conference alongside Governor Walz's team on Wednesday coming up, December 16th at around 2 o'clock. And that's simply when the governor gets up to the podium and starts. We have our linguists taking in that information and then turning it out in Spanish, Hmong, and Somali languages. So that's pretty exciting. Awesome. Now here's how we get it out. We have a hub. So TPT Now has developed a few partnerships with community media and cultural media and other organizations. And then we leverage multimedia platforms to push English, Spanish, Hmong, and Somali content out on COVID. So we're the source, we're the hub, and we get information from government sources. And then we work with our linguists and other community leaders to prioritize that content and then create it and produce it. And then we give it to our distributors. So you see them on screen now, just some of them, and that helps broaden our reach. So, Somali TV, Hmong TV, the community media partners that we work with, CTV, Town Square, MCN, Spin TV, and others, New Publica. They help either promote or they actually put it out on their properties. And we give it to them to put it out because we want more people to watch and hear the governor when big decisions are coming down the pike. I'll show you a couple pictures if you want to see my team.
Please, yeah.
They're the people that make it happen, right? So let me just show you some pictures. I'm just so proud of our folks. I think you see Sabah on screen. Do you see? This is Sabah. And she is, as you can see, she's watching. We bring the feed into her studio, her mini studio, and she's watching and listening in English and then turning that around in Somali. Here's just a shot of how we set up what one of the pictures look like. So you see Governor Walz, and there's Leo Espinosa in the upper right. And then below him is an ASL signer that we pip and pip, so that you depending upon what your needs are, you can see it and hear it in Spanish, or if you need it in American Sign Language.
That's phenomenal.
Isn't it phenomenal? Yeah, and it's a lot of fun too. I want to show you Leo in studio. Let me just see here. I'm trying to flip around into a bunch of different pictures. Oh, I must share. This is Pa Lee. Reaching the Hmong audience. So again, she's taking in English, turning that around in Hmong, and then
does she have a text that she's working with as well?
No, she is.
Listening and translating, live translation.
This is a skill. Listen, I have 2 years of Spanish under my belt. I'm struggling to just even meet and greet people. But these linguists have an amazing capacity, and it's training, right? It's training that we've done. Yep. And they have an amazing capacity to take in English and then at this turn it around and push out native language, their own native language. So, and then Hmong TV in this case will carry this signal. I'll tell you something, we've measured it too. We're getting on average between the partnerships of community media and cultural media and TPT Now, about 560,000 views per news conference.
Okay.
That tells me there's a lot of people out there that need the information and want the information in their own language.
That's huge. That's wonderful.
I love it. And I say, Al, it is a pleasure to serve. I mean, what a gift. These are like members of my family now. I mean, with all the years of community work that I've done, I feel like these are members of my family. I would do anything for these folks.
So let me tell you why it's important. I talked to people yesterday about the same story I'm going to tell you right now. When I started Insight back in 1970, it might have been 73 or so. I can't even remember now. But young, visionary, hardworking, kind of a young man on a mission, and created a product that was advertising, supported advertising based. And we'd go to the market asking businesses to buy ads because we reached the Black community and people in the Black community. And as often as not, we get a response, something like this: well, Al, I like you. You're a nice guy. Love your energy. But we gave in church on Sunday.
Yeah.
Get the expletive out of here. And not said with any kind of viciousness or meanness,
No.
but matter of factness. We're doing business and you are not.
Yeah.
And so it sort of reinforced the notion that my life, our lives, are at the margin and are therefore inconsequential. The main play of the day was the mass media, mass market, and to the degree that that spilled over or trickled down to my community, I should be thankful. And so I went to other Black, Asian, Latino, and Native American newspapers and radio stations, and we found our stories similar. We invited each other to connect, creating the Minnesota Multicultural Media Coalition, and went back to the market because if Company A had said, Al, you got 10,000 circulation, I'm big and you're not. We said, okay. I went back to the company saying, I'm here not on behalf of the 10,000, but on behalf of the 200,000 people that we reached through our Black, Asian, Latino, and Native American media properties. And is that a number that you can deal with? Is that a big enough number? It met the criteria that they said kept us out. And so still, then the goalpost shifts, because the first answer was an easy answer. You answer that objection, and then the goalpost shifts further away. So it's even as difficult or more difficult to pursue the business opportunity you're seeking. So here's the point I'm making. In that kind of environment, we started the organization, the coalition, when AIDS was emerging as a public health crisis globally. And we knew that there was a gazillion, types of disinformation that mischaracterized Black people and brown people as the source and the reason, the blame for HIV/AIDS. And the blame was the most important thing. It was one more way of bringing aggression against our humanity, our dignity, our sense of being, by saying, oh, but for Black people, AIDS wouldn't be a problem in the world, when we know that's not the case and it's not the science. And so we went to people like even the Minnesota Department of Health saying, we want to get clear messages, good messages out to our people about the science and about how you respond, what prevention looks like, and messages that don't confirm this disinformation that blames and creates a negative image of Black and brown people. And to our dismay, one of the officers in the health department said, well, and this was the philosophy at the time, we put stories in the Star Tribune and on WCCO TV, and don't your people read that? And I said, no. Look at the data.
Yeah.
And the gaps in Star Tribune coverage are in 55411, 55412, 55103, 104. These are zip codes that have Black and brown residents, right? So they may have a 70% penetration in the suburbs or Southwest Minneapolis, but in my neighborhood, 55411, their penetration was down to 5%, 7%, 9%, low. Nobody was buying the Star Tribune. Therefore, if you want to talk to my people, you got to talk to us in vehicles that represent our view, our vision, our dignity, our humanity.
Yes.
And so I asked the health officer, have you ever heard of a Jet magazine? He said, no. And so I grew up, Brenda, you and I grew up, every house in our community had Jet magazine. We all read Jet every week for all of our lives, right?
Ebony
magazine.
Ebony magazine, yeah.
And so the point is that white people were unaware of the information infrastructure that sustained our lives, our community, our culture, and sustained us against the very onslaught against our people by white supremacist ideology and practice that was presented as normal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
so all that to say, I'm so glad to see that you are doing what you are doing to broaden the pipeline, to gain um, uh, movement in the culture about the validity, the veracity, and the beauty
Thank
of
you.
all of the voices that make up our community and make up the world.
Well,
And it's critically important. So
you're
here's my
talking.
question.
Yeah.
What is the pushback when you
Well,
go to say to the institution,
you
we
know,
need to bring these voices?
yeah.
I'm pleased that they have engaged you.
Yeah.
But what pushback have you received? Because I've told you what pushback I have received, and I'm
Yeah.
still getting it.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about that. That's a super good question. Let's take a step back too. So when I started ECHO back in 2004, Emergency Community Health and Outreach, frankly, that was a coalition of government agencies, public health and public safety agencies that came to the table. And I said, hey, listen, I've got an idea. I've got a model, and I think it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So this is largely, this is systemic, is what we're talking about here. There are systemic challenges built into our systems that are deep. And we have to look at the context of communication over a lot of history, and then each different demographic, because they all have their own different context of how these systems have either pulled them in or left them out of communication and a discussion around key topics, including health and safety. But when I started ECHO back in 2004, the government systems knew that they weren't reaching cultural communities and Black communities, but all of these disparate communities, right? They knew, but what they didn't know was how to fill the gap, because there are so many. We have more than 100 different dialects in the Twin Cities metro area alone. We're blessed with a lot of cultural communities here.
And I would argue that they knew how, they chose not to. That might be the difference. And I think that their ignorance was willful and intentional and effective.
I know the goal with the work that I was doing at ECHO was, how can we do it? And they invested in ECHO, mostly project work, topically. We did over 700 different multimedia programs in 7 different languages, only on health and safety topics, over 10 years, right? And so they keep scratching at it. I think you're right. I think sometimes there's a blind eye. I won't deny that.
Yeah.
And then sometimes there's just ignorance. And then sometimes it's a matter of resource. It's complex. So it is uphill work. And that's I'm used to walking uphill.
Yeah. And the ignorance, that's a great point. The ignorance, and that's why this conversation is so important, Lillian. The ignorance is the ignorance the country wanted to claim until we all had the 8-minute and 46-second lesson.
Now let's talk about that.
The 8 minutes and 46 that pulled the covers off,
yes,
and forbids us to ever say we didn't know.
Yeah,
because our people have been saying this has been going on forever, and the institution has been saying this is a one-of.
But Al, so let's just say now, I want to, I don't want to do what has happened over time, right? A sweeping generalizations, a mass statement about all people in a given culture is not right. That's a stereotype, right? So I think there are people within the system, individuals and groups, that are trying and have been trying, because I witnessed it and I've been a part of it, that have been trying and looking for ways to improve the work, sometimes from a distance, right? Or they'll invest in the work that I've done, for instance, because then they can check a box and say, we've made effort into reaching cultures, right? I think what's happening now that you're pointing out with the 8-minute and 46-second, let's say George Floyd, say his name, right? When that happened now, that sort of ripped the scab off, if you will, and is opening now, taking us all to a whole new level. And that's why I like to say that, yep, I've been fighting for these communities and for this position for public information for many years, but I've had a lot of government partners and nonprofit partners and media partners that have agreed that it needs to happen and have helped me one way or another, either behind the scenes or in front of the scenes, right? And that's what's led to today. And now today we have opportunity to take those relationships like yours and mine and everybody else that we know and raise the voices and do it right. And that we can thank George Floyd and that incident, that unfortunate loss in our community. But now that we cannot anymore ignore, we have got to deal with it. And I want to show you how it's working because I'm a positive person by nature. Another little screen share here. Let me just see if I can't get this one file to open. Here it is. Hopefully I can show this because numbers do matter. Here we go. So these are just some numbers of this is a series of news conferences that we did around the George Floyd incident. So here's the governor with Leo and Nick from ASL, and look at the numbers and engagements and shares of when the governor was addressing our communities about the civil unrest and the situations that were going on. And what's really telling here is the positive feedback that we're getting. This happens to be from the Latinx community. Positive feedback that I think you're seeing that on screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. From people that are saying, thank you for giving us this information. This was a horrific situation that happened in our communities. And then all the civil unrest on Lake Street, University, in the Cedar, in the neighborhoods that are Latinx, African, and Asian communities, right? And these were people that were saying, keep talking to us, keep telling us what's going on. We need to know. We want to know. We need to start talking about these issues. Here's some numbers. May 29th, right? This is when the commissioner of public safety was addressing the public and look at the engagements, look at the shares, right? When the governor is talking about the looting and the violence happening in the Twin Cities as a result of that George Floyd's loss, and then the reshares, and then look at these media partners that pick it up and put it on their signal. So they have numbers too, right? So this is, my point is that we are getting the conversation going now. We're loud and out there and we're distributing the information because it's important. People want to know and they need to know, and we need to talk about these issues now. And your organization, Insight News, mine, TPT Now, and many others in the cultural and community media space. And we're public media space. That's what we're here to do. We're not here to make judgments, but we're here to provide platforms so that these conversations can be now talked about out in the open, full transparency, from different viewpoints, representing different cultures, because that's really what's important. In my humble opinion, it's important that we hear from the melting pot, right? That we raise the visibility of the different viewpoints around situations that happen in our world, whether it's what happened with George Floyd or whether it's what's happening with any other health and safety issue that we might have, right? And so that, to me, the work that we have done and the work that we have been doing, the good news is we have a system in place now. And I think our government partners, I know, are leveraging us. They're saying, you know what, we do need to work more with different ways of communicating and reaching cultures of all types so that they can learn more, not only about what's going on with COVID, but that we can have thoughtful conversations about how to really reduce the health and safety disparities that we have going on in our communities and address things like racism and everything else. So I'm hopeful. And this to me is the beauty of public service. This to me is the beauty of public media. It's the reason why I'm very proud that Twin Cities PBS is a part of this. We are leveraging the assets that we have to raise the visibility and tell stories and get these conversations going about these very critically important health and safety issues that will impact us for the rest of our lives. Not just me, but you and all the other diverse communities that we have here in Minnesota. So that's kind of my mission and that's my passion. It's kind of what drives the work. And I think it's really important that, what I'm trying to say is that before we put anything out on our signal, we try to bring together the melting pot, because we really want to make sure that not only is the content that we're getting from government, they're going to be the public officials that give us the information.
Sure.
But then I like to sit around the table with my teams and say, well, all right, how does this information impact you and you and you and you? And then what do we need to do so that we can get that information to permeate each of the cultural communities so that they hear it? And then from there, the next step is all right, what are the reactions to the information? Vaccine is a good example. There's lots of reactions going on right now to, whether or not anybody wants to get the vaccine and what's in the vaccine and what does it mean? And will I be deported if I show up to get a vaccine? We need to raise the visibility about all those different issues so that people feel safe and healthy when they go and get a vaccine.
Well, part of the challenge has to be also a commitment to the notion of equity, of our communities feeling that they are at the table of decision and are also part of the revenue streams associated with problem solving. Here's another Al McFarlane-ism. People have heard me say it, and I say it all the time. They get the money, we get the misery. Our misery becomes business for white people. And so it's a profitable business because they find it easy to manage the misery. It's like being in a teapot or a pressure cooker, and you can control, the temperature so it's right at boiling or parboiling, but it doesn't ever go away. And it powers other things in society and community and government and business. My objective, when I started this work back in the 60s, Lillian, I would work with nonprofits who would say, we're trying to solve the problem of homelessness and hunger and racial discrimination. We want to work our way out of a job. And they were earnest. They were sincere in saying that they thought that they worked really hard, and that because of the basic good nature of everybody and because of the intent of government to be fair and equitable, now that we've begun to talk about equality and the beautiful community, et cetera, that could happen. And sadly, nobody's worked out of a job, and the problems have simply continued and they've expanded. And so I step back and look at it and say that, what we have to do in our community is begin to ensure that we see ourselves and that the world sees us as part of the solution side of the equation, not simply as the problem. And if we are confined to the problem part of the equation, we simply become both fodder and grist for a machine that chews us up and spits us out when we are no longer of value to them. Well, we cannot be in that position. We must not genuflect at the altar of white supremacy, and that we have to fight that. And so our allies have to be, and this is why I really praise what you're doing. You're doing phenomenal work, wonderful work, and TPT is an excellent organization in bringing just a wide range of different analyses, points of view that really serve everybody properly. And that's the good thing. So I think that this conversation is really a wonderful one. Our job has to be not only to, bring more voices, but to do that with the intent of equity, transformation, and empowering. And the empowerment has to be measured by, among other things, money, the movement of money, the creation of wealth, and how we develop capacity and transactional growth in communities that have been left out. So that's what I think.
I'd like to respond to that. I think,
please do.
I think you're right. It takes resources to do what we're doing, what you're doing with Insight News, what I'm doing, and I'm just going to, throw the partners up here back up on screen, just because, again, I want to promote the partners that I work with.
Great teams.
We work together. This is teamwork, right? We're all giving a little something to get the information out. But also at the end of the day, it does take resource. Here's what I would like, and I hope, it's my wish, and I will keep walking uphill if I have to, will happen. Two things. One, I would like the TPT Now hub and partnership model to become part of the government public information system. Twin Cities Public Television is willing to work on this, but we would like to become part of that system. We're willing to put some skin in the game, and we'd like government to put some skin in the game too, we hope. I think they have been doing that, but we'd like it to be a permanent part, not just when there's a crisis. I actually think that when there are other health and safety situations that come up every year, even if it's just health prevention content, right? But so I would like to this model to become part of the system. It's my hope that we can become part of the system and continue this collaboration so that we can reach communities, because that's the goal. And then the second thing that I think will happen, frankly, I'm a positive thinker, and it has been happening with COVID. I think government partners realize that, my goodness, there are lots of different nooks and crannies, if you will, of multimedia entities from these communities that have their own businesses and that actually do reach in many different ways their own audiences, just like you said, their own zip codes, just as you mentioned it for Insight News, for instance. And those cultural media and community media entities also deserve a spot on the scene, if you will, as a part of the system. And the work that you've been doing and some of the other organizations that can really target and pinpoint and hit, it's tough for me to get the 70,000 Somalis that live in the Twin Cities to come to Channel 2.5 when we offer Somali language on occasion. It's better for me to leverage Somali TV, who always have Somali content on their signal, right? But together, if I become the hub and I can work with Somali TV to get that information out, the shared partnership is what makes us stronger together on behalf of government. And to me, that's kind of the goal. And so I think all of these multicultural media entities that have showed up and have been receiving contracts from government to help get the word out to targeted audiences need to stick around. And I'd like TPT Now hub and spoke to also stick around. And that's my goal. That's what I'm moving for next.
It's a good goal. It's the right thing to do. Keep up the good work. Lillian, McDonald, thank you so much. This has been a good conversation. I've enjoyed it. We'll be talking together and working together as we go along. Brenda, any questions or comments? Brenda Gray?
Just so nice meeting you, and the best wishes for your continued success with the radio stations and TV stations, and happy holidays.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Brenda. Happy holidays to you. Al, thank you so very much. Let's not forget Kelvin behind the scenes. It takes people behind the scenes to get the messages out. I'm grateful to be a part of your program today. Thank you. And keep watching TPT Now. We appreciate new viewers.
And we will do it. Thank you so much. Take care.
Have a great day. Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.